There comes a time in the startup product lifecycle where you have to adjust what you're doing in order to achieve continued growth. It's called a pivot. And today we're going to talk about different types of pivots that you can use to achieve continued growth in your startup. The first is a zoom-in pivot. And that's when you evaluate your product and take a single feature and make that the focus. Now, hotornot.com was a website that was really focused only on dating. One of the features, though, was video sharing. Now, when the idea of hotornot.com kind of fizzled out, the founders saw that this video sharing idea actually had something to it. And so they pivoted that into a new service called YouTube. Now, a zoom-out pivot is the opposite. It's when you look at your product, you see you only have a small subset of features, and you build on that. Google did that. They started with search, and now they've expanded to an ecosystem of services available to all their users online. Now, a customer needs pivot is when you look at the problem that you're solving for your customer and see if there's something else that you could actually solve, if there's a different problem. Now, in the case of PayPal, they actually started by focusing only on customers on personal devices that were actually trying to transfer money between one another. Now, as the PDA industry fizzled out, they still saw that their customers needed a way to transfer money effectively and quickly, and so they moved that experience online. Now, a customer segment pivot is when you change the customers that you're delivering value to with your product or service. So if we look at PayPal again, their focus at the beginning was only on PDA customers, and then they shifted to online customers, including international people, people in the United States, and other customers that maybe had no access to a PDA before, but would see value in a money transfer system online. Now, a platform pivot is when you change the way that your customer is interacting with you in terms of the platform that they're using. So USAA did this with their check deposit feature. So it was a feature that was only available on their online desktop version. So you would have to sit at a desk, log in, get a special printer that you would put next to your desktop, and then upload all the checks. Now, customers found this to be a really clunky experience and took a long time. And so what they did was they actually moved that experience to mobile and introduced the remote check deposit feature. Now that's something that's popularized in banks all over the industry today, but it actually started here with USAA. Now, a business model pivot is when you switch the way that you fundamentally do business. So that's looking at something like having a low-cost, high-volume business model and switching that to a high-cost, low-volume business model. Now, a value capture pivot looks specifically at how you're monetizing or capturing values such as likes or follows or signups from your customer, and switching which value prop is the most important to you. So maybe you started out looking for revenue, and now you really want to focus on customer experience. That would be a value capture pivot. A growth strategy pivot is specific to marketing. So that's when you look at different ways that you can actually attract your customer to your product or service. So Apple does this a lot, where they start with a viral marketing campaign, which focuses on gathering the interest of early adopters. And then they switch to a paid strategy where they're really focusing on the broader mass market. A channel pivot is when you're changing the way that your distribution channels and sales channels actually work for your business. So Tesla is a really cool, innovative example of this. Now, in the car industry, usually you go to a car dealership when you want to buy a car. With Tesla, they've actually set up storefronts in malls across the United States where customers can come in and interact with the car and get any information that they would need about the car. But then all purchasing for Tesla vehicles happens online. Then you have a technology pivot. And so that's more of a back-end process, changing the way that you power the product or service that you're using. Now, sometimes new technologies can provide superior pricing or performance strategies, so it's really more about optimizing what you have.